Hello everyone and welcome back to cheekytek. This is a part 2, a follow-up if you could call it, from the point wiring that I did in my previous video. The reason why I followed this up is purely I did the install and I looked back at the video and I think I tried to make everything as clear as I possibly could with the wiring and everything else. I was a little bit confused when I done the control panel, because I did explain about one switch and then ended up with two, and then I've actually gone back to one. The whole reason that was because if I was using a 16 volt AC coming in to power the points, which is old school, is what you could do many years ago, and that would be fine, then you'd probably put two switches on, and that's where I was going. I did a test with one switch to run two, it worked, but with the load, as you saw in the video, it needed a little bit more juice. Thank you to so many of your comments, because and I found that really helpful. The recommendation is to put a capacitor discharge unit, a CDU, in line with the point motors, because they're seeps, because it stops the solenoid from burning out. It also puts a nice drive, a nice clear click instead of the buzz, buzz, buzz. So it does refine it and prolongs the life of your seeps, your seep motors. So highly recommend it. That's why I did buy one in the end. I had intention to buy one. It was just a case of I didn't have one at that time. I didn't know how the points would perform with it or without it, so it was something I wanted to do, and your feedback basically answered all my questions, which makes it all work today, and I can understand it now. So thank you to everyone. I'll show you what I've done, where I've got to. I had a few problems with the way that my track's laid, but I will show you a very easy resolve and how I got around it. So we'll go down to the layout and I'll show you what the bits that I've added and how I've changed them. Okay. So as you can see, this is our point we've got here, and one of the problems I had was, as you can see, this is the edge of the track, you can see there, and then I have this thick 18mm batten underneath there, which sits there, which would give you, if I actually put that to the edge, that is the edge, the space I've got between there and there underneath. Now that is not enough to get that point motor there. It would actually sit somewhere like that, and I'd have to have the point over here, so that would have to be the middle of the point. After drilling my hole dead center down, and I'll show you a little quick technique that I did for this. A lot of you told me about blue tack, bits of plastic, but I think the most ingenious was a bit of wire, 1mm wire. Tuck that into the rails, and that gives you your center mark. That's where you start first. Drill your hole. I drilled it by hand. That gives you a little hole underneath. Get your 10mm drill. I started with a 6mm, then a 10mm, just to drill up very gently into the cork membrane underneath, chipping away, and then chiseled, and with a scalpel, all the remaining cork underneath, exposing a hole. I then put the point motor in the hole, and I moved it up and down in place with a point, just to make sure it had free movement both sides. And then I just done a pencil line around the sides, roughly where I knew the point was open and closing. Because I already pre-wired them, I did a little test just holding it underneath, because I can hold it there and switch the switch to my left here. So it gave me all that flexibility. Unfortunately for some of you guys, you don't have a platform like this, like a shelf edge that's, you know, sort of chest height, so you may need two people to do this job, you know, one to drill a hole, one to hold it, or one switches it till you mark it and know roughly the space. It's not an easy job to do on your own unless you've got, let's say, what I've done, but that's not for everyone, and I totally understand that. Let's take that out. So one of the problems I had here was this point, as I said, and I had to, I couldn't work out how to get this to work. Obviously couldn't work that way, can't work that way, it had to work that way, and there wasn't enough space. I did a little bit of research with a lot of the old style points and semaphore signals. That's the best place to start if you're having any problems fitting point motors, because there's a lot of research of old times where people had little rods underneath, and they would pull a rod up and down to actuate arms, switches and points. That was quite the common way many years ago, but it is a fantastic method even in today's world with some of these points because we are very restricted for space. So do tap into that, look at the engineering side of point actuation or signal, semaphore signals, that kind of thing, because there is some pulley wheels and there's lots of little tiny things that we don't actually think about because we've gone too computerized, but in our world actually they would help. So my resolve was to actually mount this onto the platform. This is actually mounted underneath on the platform, so if I show you on the mirror underneath, now you can see down the back there, that is our point. If you look in the mirror, I'm showing you here, and I'll use this to show you, there's the point, and it actually sits about there. That's where the point sits. So in real terms, there's the point, but there you go, and there is the point. So it's actually sitting in there, basically. Now I bent the arm, this little arm here, I bent it towards me, towards the camera, and give me an L shape, and then I ran a little tiny bit of, you can just see it, there's a bit of wood underneath, and it's got a little groove in the middle. Obviously the groove is for the arm to travel through that space without actually getting caught on the board underneath. Then you may see, I don't know if you can see, just see that there, that is a connection block screw, the terminal there. I've actually stripped it out the wire block, the white sides or the plastic strips it off, and then I've actually put that end into it, and then I've used a little wire rod that you can see going from there all the way to underneath where the point is, and then that gives me the lateral feed to move the point. As you can see, that's moving the point quite nicely. And I actually stuck a little tiny bit of plastic packaging just to hold the, which as you can see with the two screw holes here, that's a little bit of plastic packaging that just holds that rod up against the baseboard, and you can see the points actually turning. So that was a good fix. I'm quite happy with that. You can see this is running off a CDU unit, a capacitor discharge unit. There's no buzz, straight over. So there you go. That was a quick fix and something to think about when you're installing these points. I had the same problem over here, and I'll show you that one. This was my other dilemma. You can see in here is the beam, and it travels right across to where that point is, and I've actually got about 5 mil from where this batten actually sits, which goes across there to that there. Again, I tried looking at running the point sideways, running it underneath, an arm going up, but an arm that long from such a distance from here, it just would not perform properly. So I was a bit stumped. Again, going back to old semaphore signalling and things like that, I had a look at different ways, and then I actually came up with a solution, and was actually to get the Dremel drill, and I actually chiseled out a little square block, just enough. As you can see, you've only got about 4 mil, 5 mil on the side there. Well, because I only needed literally 5 millimeters into that block to get that line in, so I just chiseled away 5 mil in there and down with the Dremel, and it literally was just cutting a little shelf, so it hasn't actually ruined the integrity of the batten. And then I just chiseled a little tiny bit away where the rest of the point motor is, and that now actually sits just inside that beam, inside there, and actually screws up to the point, which solved that problem. So you can get around these little beams and things. At the end of the day, it's just an engineering thing that you build, so whether you restructure it or put another batten underneath, that's absolutely fine. My problem is I've only got 70 mil between the top of the clearance between that batten and the bottom of the track. Anything hanging down, protruding underneath there would catch the trains going through, because I've got this bottom layer. So it had to be literally sitting here, not underneath. But it's in now, it all works. That one's done, so that's all good. You can see that one moving. And then I've got these two over here that I've still got to wire up. So that's them. I haven't done them yet, don't know why. So yeah, that's all good. Yeah, so it's all working. Certainly some things to think about when you're installing some of these motors. So very quickly I'll show you, this is the capacitor discharge unit that I actually purchased. They don't make these anymore, but you can get something very similar. This one actually runs on a main, so that's the mains going in, which goes all the way down to the adapter there. So the adapter goes all the way down to there, that goes to there. And then this line, that's your common, which goes to the middle of the point motor, and that goes to the middle of your switch. And that is really it. That goes down all the way down to there, to my little control panel in here, and then to my switch. You can see I've got one switch, and one switch controls two, which I'll show you up there. You can see, so you're looking at this one and this one here. You'll see that they both fire over, no buzzing, straight over. So that's what a CDU actually does. You can run on 16 volts AC on a separate controller, but I would highly recommend, like many of you guys have said, and you've also echoed the same thing, use one for the sake of 13 quid. It'll give you more life in your seat points, making sure the power's off and they're not overheating, because that's what they do. They're solenoids, and the power goes around the little coil, which obviously creates a heat, and then they're on. Once they're like this, they actually flick over and they're actually cool again, they're off. So it's safer and it's better, and you'll get more life out your seats. So highly recommend. That's what you do. Just thought I'd give you this update on what I've done. I'm now finished off these panels. They're done in acrylic with plastic card embossed on the top, so they're actually embossed on top of there. Got some more to do. This one might make a bit smaller. This was my first prototype, but I've got a couple more to do. So there you go, guys. That brings us to a close on our point wiring part 2. As I explained at the beginning of this video, this was purely a catch-up of the first video, which was point wiring SEEP 2. So it was purely just to sort of show you where I had some problems, obviously going into the project. Not with the seeps had no problems, the switches and that absolutely fine, and I thoroughly enjoyed fitting them and adding them to the layout. It was just purely I had some troubles with the layout, obviously the way I built it, and I thought it was good to show you guys that there is ways to overcome these things. Anyway, I've got a lot more mini projects on the way. I've got some great stuff coming through to 2018, so do keep tuned, and if you want a bit more cheeky tech. Until next time, take care, and I shall catch you somewhere in the next video. Cheerio, guys. Don't forget to check out our latest video, the diesel depot shunt, old oak style, where you can see a couple of our locos doing daily routines between both depots.